Lu Ming fell in love with He Yuning, a hostess at a nightclub, and resolutely decided to dump me, his brilliant and talented fiancé. In my past life, I loved him to the bone. To protect his inheritance, I forced him to cut ties with the hostess. As a result, they staged a dramatic She Runs, He Chases love saga, leading to a miscarriage and He Yuning becoming permanently infertile. 5 years later, Lu Ming took control of the Lin family and spent $1 billion to marry He Yuning. On the eve of the wedding, he slammed a 100-carat diamond into my forehead. She doesn't want to see you. A life for a life, you're only fit to go underground and serve our child. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day he publicly called off the engagement. Lu Ming, will never marry a boring woman who spends all her time in a lab. The crystal chandelier's light was blinding as Lu Ming stood on stage, pointing at me with undisguised contempt. The one I love is not her. She is pure and innocent like a white flower, in need of protection. Not you. Su-An-Wai, a cold, so-called genius who only deals with data and test tubes. Behind him stood a woman in a white dress, her eyes red-rimmed, pitifully tugging at the corner of his clothes. He Yuning, a woman who sold drinks at the Charm nightclub. The entire venue erupted in shock. That Su family's research prodigy is worse than a bar girl. I heard she spent months working on Lu Ming's new energy project and nearly went blind. And what did she get in return? Men, after all, prefer someone who knows how to have fun. Countless eyes pierced me like needles. I stood there, still holding the champagne meant to celebrate the project's success, my fingertips ice cold. How familiar this scene was. In my past life, under the very same gazes, I had begged him not to call off the engagement for the sake of his inheritance, for the honor of the Lin and Su families. All I got in return was deeper humiliation. A farce of She Runs, He Chases played out 100 times, and the child I lost in an accident was blamed on me, making me the culprit behind He Yuning's lifelong infertility. 5 years later, when he took over the Lin family and married He Yuning, the diamond ring struck my forehead, and the last words I heard were, "She doesn't want to see you." I took a deep breath. Lu Ming was looking at me with a smug, expectant gaze, waiting for me to break down in tears. I lifted my head, my face showing none of the pain or panic he had anticipated, only a bone-deep calm. "Are you done?" My voice wasn't loud, yet it strangely silenced the entire venue for a moment. Lu Ming was taken aback. "Su-An-Wai, what's with the act of calmness? I know you love me to death, but feelings can't be forced." I cut him off directly, pulled out my phone from my handbag, dialed a number right in front of him, and put it on speaker. After a few rings, a dignified and steady male voice came through. "An-Wai, calling so late, good news on the project." It was Lin Zhenghong, chairman of the Lin Group. The entire venue held its breath. I looked at Lu Ming's suddenly pale face and slowly curled my lips into a smile. "Uncle Lin, the project is going smoothly, but there's something more important. Your son Lu Ming has publicly announced he's marrying a bar girl, unilaterally breaking off the engagement, choosing that bar girl over me, the daughter of the Su family and the future matriarch of the Lin family." There was a 2-second silence on the other end of the line, and the atmosphere suddenly dropped. "Where is he? Let him talk to me." Lu Ming's face turned pale, and he lunged to grab the phone. I sidestepped to avoid him, my gaze sweeping across the guests below, whose expressions shifted from mockery to shock to speculation. Then I dropped the bombshell. "No need. Uncle Lin. Since Lu Ming insists on humiliating me and the Su family by using a bar girl, I request a change in the marriage arrangement." I paused, my heart pounding, savoring the thrill of my first counterattack after being reborn. "I agree to the marriage, but the partner should be your eldest son, the heir of the Lin family, Lin Cheng." Boom! The banquet hall erupted into chaos. "Su-An-Wai wants to marry that vegetable. Lin Cheng has been bedridden for 3 years. Whether he'll wake up is uncertain. Is she crazy? Will the Su family agree?" Lu Ming laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke, pointing at my nose and howling. "Su-An-Wai, are you insane? Marry my brother, that living corpse? Ah, you'd rather be a grass widow than admit defeat to Mayuri. Pathetic." He Yuning nestled into Lu Ming's arms at just the right moment, looking at me with a timid expression. Miss Su, how could you do this? The eldest young master is already pitiful enough. I watched this pair of adulterers, the way they played innocent in my past life overlapping with this moment, making me sick. Lin Zhenghong's voice came through the phone again, tinged with caution. Anwei, are you sure you understand Lin Cheng's situation? I'm sure, I replied without a hint of hesitation. Compared to an heir who only knows how to indulge in pleasure, can't separate public from private matters, and might drag the Lin family into risk, a stable marriage that secures the full support of the Su family is a far better choice for the Lin family. Am I right, Uncle Lin? Lin Zhenghong is a businessman who values interests and family reputation. Lu Ming's actions today had already crossed his bottom line. Sure enough, Lin Zhenghong fell silent, and that silence was equivalent to tacit approval. Lu Ming's laughter abruptly stopped, and he shouted into the phone in disbelief. Dad, you can't listen to her nonsense. She's taking revenge on me. Shut up. Lin Zhenghong's roar came through. Lu Ming, you get your ass back here right now, and bring that shameless woman with you. The dial tone of the hung-up phone was like a resounding slap across the faces of Lu Ming and He Yuning. Lu Ming's face turned ashen, his eyes glaring at me with venomous hatred. He Yuning, on the other hand, looked terrified, clutching Lu Ming's arm and sobbing. I didn't look at them anymore and walked straight toward the entrance of the banquet hall. As I passed, the crowd parted on their own, their gazes shifting from initial sympathy and disdain to shock, scrutiny, and even a hint of awe. Su Anwei's move is ruthless, cutting the ground from under their feet. Lu Ming is in trouble now. Chairman Lin values face the most. The Lin family is about to see a shakeup. When I reached the door, I stopped without turning back. My voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for the dead silent crowd behind me to hear clearly. Second young Master Lu, don't forget to tell your innocent, pure white lotus that she'd better get ready to call me sister-in-law. The entire venue fell into dead silence. Lu Ming snapped out of it and shouted at me. Su Anwei, have you lost your mind? Marry my brother. He's been in a coma for 3 years, nothing but a living corpse. Are you taking revenge on me or choosing to be a widow? He Yuning tugged at his sleeve, sobbing. Ming, don't be like this. Miss Su might just be acting on impulse. I couldn't be bothered to watch their act, so I turned and walked away. Stop right there. Lu Ming tried to block me. I glanced back at him coldly. Second young Master Lu, if you touch me again, I guarantee you won't set foot in the Lin Group building tomorrow. His hand froze midair. I held evidence of his previous project violations in my hands in my past life. I was too soft-hearted to use it, but this time, I wouldn't be so kind. The surrounding guests shifted their gazes from amusement to curiosity. Su Anwei has something on Lu Ming. Looks like young Master Lu has bitten off more than he can chew. The next day, Lin Zhenghong called me personally. Anwei, I've thought about what you said yesterday. Cheng has indeed wronged you, but if you insist, the Lin family welcomes you. I knew exactly what he was calculating. The Su family behind me and the research project in my hands were too valuable to the Lin family. Trading a son in a vegetative state for a powerful ally and stable inheritance benefit, she had it all figured out. Uncle Lin, I said, but I have 2 conditions. First, after I marry Lin Cheng, all his shares and assets will be managed by me. Second, Lu Ming must leave the group's core and be transferred to an overseas branch, with no recall to the country without permission. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line before a single word came through. Fine. I smiled after hanging up. Lin Zhenghong was indeed ruthless without a second thought. He abandoned his youngest son for the sake of profit. When the news broke, it caused an uproar. Lu Ming stormed into my house, his eyes bloodshot. Su Anwei, you're vicious. Trying to exile me. Dream on. I lounged leisurely on the sofa, flipping through Lin Cheng's medical report. It's not exilites giving you a chance to fly off into the sunset with your true love. What? You don't want it? Or is it that you can't bear to let go of the Lin family's wealth and glory? He was choked speechless. his face turning pale and ashen. He Yuning followed behind him, speaking weakly. Miss Su, please let Ming go. It's all my fault. I looked up, my gaze sharp as a knife. Of course it's your fault. Who else's could it be? Her face turned deathly pale. On the verge of tears, I added another sentence. From now on, please address me as Miss Su or young madam. Lu Ming trembled with anger, pointing at me. Do you think marrying my brother gives you the right to trample me? Let me tell you, as long as I'm still in the Lin family, don't think you can have the last laugh. Is that so? I chuckled lightly. Then take a good look at the Lin family building while you still can. Next Monday, you're to report to the African branch. What? Lu Ming completely lost control. Impossible. My dad wouldn't. The transfer order has already been issued. I interrupted. Chairman Lin signed it himself. Want me to fax you a copy? He stood frozen, as if all his strength had been drained away. He Yuning also panicked, clutching him tightly. Ming, Africa. I don't want to go. It's so chaotic there. I'm so scared. I watched this pair of ill-fated lovers clinging to each other, finding it nothing but ironic. Don't want to go. I raised an eyebrow. Fine. Renounce all inheritance rights to the Lin family right now. Cut ties. And take your true love to work on a construction site. I'll have the transfer order cancelled immediately. Lu Ming stared at me, his lips trembling but unable to utter a single word. Of course he couldn't say itho could he give up the wealth and status of the Lin family. It seems your love still needs money to survive. I stood up and gestured for him to leave. Please. I won't see you out. There are a lot of mosquitoes in Africa. Remember to bring mosquito repellent. Lu Ming was dragged away by He Yuning, crying. Shortly after they left, I received a call from the butler of the Lin family's old mansion. Miss Su. The eldest young master. The eldest young master's fingers just moved. I held the phone, my heart racing. Lin Cheng was about to wake up, a full 2 months earlier than in my past life. It seemed that being reborn had indeed changed some things. A week later, Lin Cheng and I held a low-key wedding. Lu Ming was still forced onto a plane bound for Africa, with He Yuning tearfully following along. The only attendees at the wedding were Lin Zhenghong and a few senior family members. Dressed in my wedding gown, I stood by Lin Cheng's bedside as he lay in a coma, completing the ceremony. No one had faith in this marriage. Everyone was waiting to see how long I could last. 3 days after the wedding, I moved into Lin Cheng's villa and took full control of all his affairs. His private lawyer and medical team were initially wary of me, but my sharp business acumen and deep understanding of Lin Cheng's condition quickly put them at ease. I reviewed the last project Lin Cheng had handled before falling into a coma, highly promising land acquisition deal that had hit a deadlock. In my past life, Lu Ming had used the plan he swindled from me to crack this tough nut and win the board's favor. This time, he wouldn't get the chance. I assembled a project team, pulled several all-nighters to revise the plan, and personally visited key stakeholders. There was considerable resistance. Many people paid lip service while waiting to see me fail. Madam, the person in charge on the other side is very difficult to deal with and won't budge. I heard that the second young master has been remotely contacting them from Africa, trying to cut in. I set down my coffee cup, a chill in my eyes. Tell them I'll come over to negotiate in person at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Also, anonymously send a copy of the evidence of Lu Ming privately contacting the other party and promising illegal benefits to Chairman Lin. The assistant was stunned but immediately complied. The next day, I arrived at the negotiation meeting room on time. The person in charge from the other side was arrogant and made things difficult in every way possible. Miss Su, it's not that I'm trying to make things hard for you, but the terms your Lin family has proposed truly lack sincerity. I directly turned on the projector and pulled up a file. Manager Jiang, that piece of land you've been sitting on in the east of the city for 5 years, the planning approval hasn't come through yet, has it? His expression shifted slightly. What if I told you that next month, the new subway plan will be announced, and it just so happens to pass through your plot? I smiled faintly and brought up another set of data. Also, There seem to be a few minor issues with your company's last quarter's financial report. Should I put in a good word for you in front of the Securities Regulatory Commission?" He started to sweat. His arrogance instantly deflated. "Miss Sue, what do you mean by this? In other words, either sign this contract on my terms, and we all make money in harmony." I put away my smile, my gaze sharpening, "or I guarantee that piece of land will never see the light of day, and your company will run into some minor troubles." Half an hour later, the contract was signed. Holding the signed documents, I walked out of the conference room and received an irate call from Lin Zhenghong. "That bastard, Lu Ming actually pulled such a stunt behind our backs. Anwei, we owe this one to you. It's my duty." "Dad." My tone was calm. Hanging up, I knew Lu Ming's days in Africa were about to get even tougher. As news of the project's success spread, my reputation within the Lin family began to shift. Who would have thought this young madam actually has some real skills? She's far better than that second young master who only knows how to hit the nightclubs. I turned a deaf ear. Handling official business during the day and reading financial news by Lin Cheng's bedside at night. Or simply sitting in silence. The doctor said talking to the patient more could help with recovery. I didn't know if he could hear me, but I needed to speak about my plans. My hatred. My absurd past life. "Lin Cheng, you'd better wake up soon," I whispered, gazing at his sleeping face. "Watching your brother suffer alone is a bit lonely." His fingers twitched again. 2 months later, I had almost fully taken control of Lin Cheng's assets and secured a firm foothold in the Lin family's board of directors. Lu Ming was struggling in Africa, and every time he tried to return home, I pushed him back. He Yunan couldn't take it anymore and started posting veiled, self-pitying content on social media, hinting that I had driven them away. Paid trolls began stirring up trouble, accusing me of usurping someone else's place and being ruthless. I had my lawyer send a legal letter directly to her email, along with several bills showing her wild spending sprees in Africa using Lu Ming's supplementary card. "Miss He, if you keep spouting nonsense online, the next thing you'll receive is a court summons." She immediately shut up, just when I thought Lin Cheng would sleep for a while longer. Late one night while I was handling documents in the study, I received a panicked call from the caregiver. "Madam, the eldest young master. The eldest young master has opened his eyes." When I rushed to the hospital room, the doctor was already conducting an examination. Lin Cheng was leaning against the headboard, his face pale, but his eyes were unusually clear and sharp, carrying the confusion and scrutiny of someone just awakened. Sweeping over everyone present before finally settling on me, he stared at me for a long time, so long that the air seemed to freeze, then furrowed his brows slightly, and with a hoarse, low voice roughened by long disuse, he asked, "Who are you?" I stood at the door of the hospital room, just a few steps away, meeting his gaze freshly awakened yet still piercing. The air was stifling. The doctors and nurses barely dared to breathe. I picked up the glass of water from the bedside table, walked over to him naturally, and handed it to him. "Su Anwei," I said, looking at him, enunciating each word clearly. "Your legal wife, currently managing all your assets in your stead. And I just sent your worthless younger brother and his beloved bar girl off to Africa." His hand, holding the water glass, froze midair. His scrutinizing gaze instantly turned into shock, then deepened into probing. "Lu Ming went to Africa." His tone was full of disbelief. "Chairman Lin personally signed the transfer order," I said flatly, as if chatting about the nice weather today. "He called off the engagement in front of the city's elite for a bar girl, slapping the Lin and Su families in the face. He had to pay a price." Lin Cheng leaned back against the headboard, slowly drinking water, but his eyes remained fixed on my face, as if trying to see through me. "You did this." It wasn't a question, but a statement. "The main credit goes to your brother and his true love's touching romance." I curled the corner of my mouth. I just gave it a little push. He didn't speak, leaving only the sound of him drinking water in the hospital room. After a long moment, he set down the cup. "How long have I been asleep?" 3 years and 4 months. I reported the exact number. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, they were cold and clear. How is the company now? The land plot in the east of the city that you were eyeing before you fell into a coma has been secured. The new energy project your younger brother was handling has stalled. And the core data is in my hands. A few old foxes on the board are restless, but I can keep them in check for now. I gave a concise report, as if delivering a work briefing. A flicker of surprise crossed his eyes, clearly taken aback by how well I understood the situation. Just as he was about to speak, the hospital door was pushed open abruptly. Lin Zhenghong rushed in excitedly. "Ah Cheng, you're really awake. What did the doctor say?" A father-son reunion should have been touching. But Lin Cheng merely nodded indifferently. "Dad." His gaze immediately returned to me, carrying an undeniable intensity. "I need to know everything that happened in the past 3 years. In detail." Only then did Lin Zhenghong notice me, his expression complicated, with a hint of barely concealed wariness. "Anwei has indeed been a great help during this time." Lin Cheng responded, still looking at me. "From now on, you report to me." It was a commanding tone. I raised an eyebrow. As expected, this eldest son of the Lin family, even after lying in bed for 3 years, was no pushover. "All right." I met his gaze. "But before the report, there's something that needs to be handled first." I took out a tablet, pulled up a surveillance video, and handed it to Lin Cheng. On the screen, Lu Ming was in the African branch office, roaring at the other end of the video call. "I don't care what method you use. You have to sabotage that project. I will not let that woman Su Anwei have her way. Find a way to get me back." Lin Cheng watched the video, his expression darkening by the second. Lin Zhenghong leaned in for a look and immediately flew into a rage. "That beast. He never learns his lesson." I calmly retrieved the tablet. "Dad, Lu Ming has openly harmed the group's interests and attempted to disrupt normal domestic operations, according to the group's regulations. What should be done?" Lin Zhenghong's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. Lin Cheng looked up, his eyes unfathomable, his voice weak from just waking up, yet each word as cold as ice. "Revoke all his positions in the overseas branch. Freeze all credit cards and dividend accounts under his name. Without my permission, he is not to set foot outside the overseas branch." He turned to me, his gaze sharp as a knife. "What does my wife think?" I smiled faintly. I knew he was asserting his authority, and this was his first test after waking up. "I think," I said slowly, meeting his oppressive gaze, "we could add one more thing: send copies of the evidence of his attempts to sabotage the project to all board members." A glimmer of approval flashed in Lin Cheng's eyes. "Good." One word, resounding with finality. Lin Zhenghong opened his mouth but ultimately said nothing. I knew that Lu Ming was completely finished in the very first day of his elder brother's awakening. He had been nailed to the pillar of shame. When the news reached Africa, Lu Ming smashed his office. He Yuning called in tears, her voice shrill. "Su Anwei, you vicious woman. Are you trying to drive us to death?" I held my phone away, waiting for her to finish wailing before replying coldly. "Miss He, instead of barking here, why don't you use your pure and innocent charm to convince your man to work hard on that construction site in Africa and support you? After all his cards are frozen now." On the other end of the line came Lu Ming's roar and the sound of things being smashed. I hung up, feeling quite pleased. Lin Cheng's recovery was astonishingly fast. In less than half a month, he was already able to walk, though his face was still pale. The oppressive aura cultivated from his long-held high position had fully returned. He began taking over the core businesses I had been managing on his behalf, his methods even more ruthless than before his coma. The old foxes on the board, who had been waiting to see which way the wind blew and even secretly passing messages to Lu Ming, immediately sensed the shift and tucked their tails between their legs. I was happy to take it easy, handing back most of the authority while firmly holding on to the new energy project and the lifeline of Lin Cheng's personal assets. The prenuptial agreement clearly stated this was my foundation for survival. I had just finished a video conference with Lin Cheng, finalizing the plan to clean up Lu Ming's remaining forces, when the internal line rang. My secretary sounded tense. President Su. The front desk says a Ms. He Yuning insists on seeing you, claiming she won't leave until she does. And she's attracted quite a few reporters. I raised an eyebrow. Lu Ming's cards were frozen. And he couldn't sit still anymore. Let her up. A few minutes later, He Yuning stormed into my office. Looking haggard. Long gone was that pitiful, innocent act she put on at the banquet. Her eyes were red and swollen as she pointed at me and shouted. Su Anwei. Isn't it enough that you've ruined Ah Ming like this? He's in Africa now. Sick and can't even afford to see a doctor. How can you be so heartless? I leaned back in my chair, lazily twirling a pen. If he's sick, why come to me? He should go find his true love. Weren't you the one who kept saying you love him and would give up everything for him? It's your turn to shine. Sell your blood or your kidney, whatever you like. She trembled with rage. If you hadn't frozen his card, how could we not even have money for medical treatment? I cut her off with a cold laugh. He Yuning, drop your act. The base salary at the African branch is enough for him to live decently there. Either he's been squandering it, or you've been spending it on luxury goods. You know the truth. Her face turned pale, and her eyes flickered. I couldn't be bothered to waste words with her and directly pressed the intercom. Security, please escort Miss He out. From now on, without an appointment. She is not allowed into the building. Su Anwei. How dare you? He Yuning shrieked and lunged at me, but was restrained by the security guards who arrived in time. Who do you think you're dealing with? I stood up and walked over to her, looking down from above. Let me remind you, if you dare to cause trouble in my company or spread rumors online, I won't hesitate to make public the extensive client list you had during your time at Mise. He Yuning's scream abruptly stopped. Her face drained of all color. And for the first time, she looked at me with genuine fear. The security guards dragged her away. The office fell silent. I sat back down in my chair and rubbed my temples. My phone buzzed. Lin Cheng had sent a brief text. All handled. Come home for dinner tonight. Father's orders. I stared at the screen, my fingers pausing slightly. Was Lin Zhenghong trying to mend the relationship? Or did he have ulterior motives? That evening, Lin Cheng and I returned to the Lin family's old mansion. The atmosphere was even more unsettling than I had anticipated. Lin Zhenghong sat at the head of the table, his expression dark and displeased. Beside him sat the woman who was decked out in flashy jewelry and desperately trying to project the air of a matriarch, Lu Ming's biological mother, Zhao Yurong, the second wife who had climbed her way up through unscrupulous means back in the day. When Zhao Yurong saw Lin Cheng and me enter, especially noticing Lin Cheng's usual demeanor and the icy aura around him, her fake smile instantly froze. Ah, Cheng is awake. What wonderful news, she said dryly, though her eyes were venomous. Anwei is here too. Have a seat. Lin Cheng didn't even lift his eyelids as he pulled out a chair and sat down. I followed suit, maintaining a composed posture. At the dinner table, Zhao Yurong began to speak with veiled barbs. Anwei is truly capable. During these years when Ah Cheng was in a coma, she managed everything inside and outside the household so well. Unlike our Ah Ming, who is too naive and easily deceived by others. Now he's out there drifting. Who knows how much he's suffered. As she spoke, she picked up a handkerchief to dab at her eyes. Though there were no tears to be seen, Lin Zhenghong frowned and remained silent. I put down my chopsticks, smiled slightly at her, and said, Aunt Zhao is right. Amin is indeed easily deceived. But the one who deceived him seems to be Miss He Yuning. His pure and kind, true love, whom he met at a nightclub and who has had close ties with countless customers. Right. Zhao Yurong's face changed drastically. What nonsense are you talking about? Whether it's nonsense or not, Aunt Zhao can go ask around at Mise. Miss He was the top hostess there back then, with a bunch of regulars. Maybe she can even catch up with a few old friends. I said casually. Zhao Yurong was so angry that her chest heaved. She turned to Lin Zhenghong and said, Master, look at her. She's trying to drive me and my son to death. Lin Zhenghong's face darkened as he slammed his glass down heavily. Enough. Can't you even shut up while eating? Lin Cheng finally spoke slowly, his voice devoid of any warmth. Dad, Lu Ming's actions in Africa have severely damaged the group's interests, and the board has strong objections to him. If Aunt Zhao keeps indulging him like this, he might not even be able to hold on to his position at the branch. Zhao Yurong immediately fell silent, staring at Lin Cheng in terror. Lin Zhenghong took a deep breath, clearly struck where it hurt. I know about this. Let's eat. The meal ended in a tense atmosphere. As they left, Zhao Yurong watched Lin Cheng and me walk away side by side, her gaze so venomous it seemed ready to drip blood. In the car, Lin Cheng sat with his eyes closed, resting, when he suddenly spoke. You've been too lenient with Zhao Yurong. I turned to look at him. He opened his eyes, a cold stillness in them. Strike the snake at its vital spot. What she cares about most isn't Lu Ming, but her identity as Mrs. Lin and the wealth that comes with it. I understood what he meant, though I hadn't expected him to be so ruthless toward his stepmother. Got it. I nodded. It seemed it was time to stir up some real trouble for Zhao Yurong. Lin Cheng closed his eyes again, the corner of his mouth seemingly lifting slightly. Need help? Just say the word. A few days later, I met with a private investigator and pushed a stack of documents about Zhao Yurong across the table to him. Focus on her financial transactions over the past 3 years, especially overseas accounts, and her undefeatable dealings with those business partners. The detective understood immediately and set to work. Lin Cheng was right. Zhao Yurong, a woman who had climbed the ranks through manipulation, feared nothing more than losing her wealth and power. With Lu Mingrua gone, she would surely be covering her tracks, making it impossible for her to walk away cleanly. Sure enough, within a week, the detective sent back the preliminary findings. Zhao Yurong had not only secretly taken kickbacks under the guise of being Mrs. Lin but had also transferred a large amount of assets overseas through underground banks. Even more explosive was the fact that one of her business partners had a rear fraud conviction. Holding on to this evidence, I didn't act rashly. I was waiting for the right moment. That day, the Lin family held their quarterly board meeting. Lin Cheng, having just regained consciousness, quickly reclaimed his authority and presided over the meeting himself. I attended as the holder of Lin Cheng's proxy voting rights and the head of the new energy project. Halfway through the meeting, as they discussed an overseas investment proposal, a director who had always been close to Zhao Yurong suddenly spoke up. Lin Cheng, you've only just woken up, so you might not fully grasp the complexity of this project. I think it would be safer to have someone more experienced take the lead. Perhaps Mrs. Zhao could assist, given her overseas experience. Lin Cheng didn't even lift his eyelids, merely tapping his fingertips lightly on the table. I immediately understood and cut off the director's words. Director Li, when you say experience, are you referring to Mrs. Zhao's experience last year of secretly operating through your nephew's company and pocketing 50 million in kickbacks? The entire conference room fell into dead silence. Chairman Li's face turned pale. Su Anwei, you're slandering me. I remained calm. Calmly pulled out several transfer records and contract copies from my folder, and handed them to my assistant to distribute to the directors. These are the transaction records of Zhao Yurong accepting kickbacks, handled by none other than your own nephew, Chairman Li. Do I need to submit more detailed evidence, including your nephew's company ledgers, to the board of supervisors? Chairman Li was drenched in sweat, his lips trembling, unable to speak. The other directors looked at the irrefutable evidence in their hands with varied expressions, their gazes toward me filled with wariness. Lin Cheng finally spoke slowly, his voice devoid of any emotion. Chairman Li is getting on in years. It seems his energy is waning, making him easy to deceive. From today onward, he is relieved of all his positions in the group and should go home to enjoy his retirement. He dismissed a veteran with such casual ease. His gaze swept across the room. Does anyone else have doubts about the project leaders or my wife's capabilities? The conference room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. No one dared to speak. I knew Lin Cheng was using me to assert his authority, and also declaring to everyone Su Anwei is under his protection. After the meeting, I returned to the office. And Lin Cheng followed me in. That was quick, he said. You gave a good reminder. I poured him a glass of water. He took it but didn't drink. Looking at me, when are you planning to close the net on Zhao Yurong? Soon. I chuckled lightly. Let her transfer more assets first. The larger the amount, the heavier the sentence. He nodded, seemingly satisfied with my ruthlessness. Just then, a breaking news alert popped up on the computer. Lin Group's Mrs. Lin Zhao Yurong, suspected of embezzlement and illegal asset transfers, has been taken away by police for investigation. The accompanying image showed Zhao Yurong being escorted by 2 female officers. Her face pale and hair disheveled, her aristocratic demeanor long gone. I raised an eyebrow at Lin Cheng. Did you do this? He took a leisurely sip of water. Just a little something. I understand. He thought I was too slow, so he took matters into his own hands. Using the most official and irreversible method. Ruthless and absolute. Now Zhao Yurong is completely finished. And Lu Ming has lost his last pillar of support overseas. My phone vibrated frantically. It was Lu Ming calling from Africa. His voice filled with despair. Su Anwei. It was you. You must have harmed my mother. You venomous woman. I'll haunt you even in death. I hung up immediately and blocked him. Finally, some peace and quiet. Lin Cheng set down his cup and walked to the window. Gazing at the endless stream of traffic below, the informants have been mostly cleared out. He turned around, standing against the light, his silhouette sharp and cold. Now, it's time to get down to business. The serious matter he spoke of was to completely take control of the Lin Group and deal with those enemies still lurking in the shadows, coveting what belonged to him. I knew that this marriage of ours, which began with interests and revenge, was somehow transforming into an unbreakable alliance. I walked over to stand beside him and asked, "What do you plan to do next?" He turned his head to look at me, a faint trace of a smile flickering in his eyes. "What does my lady think?" The news of Zhao Yurong's arrest hit the already turbulent Lin family like a boulder thrown into a raging river. Lin Zhenghong was so furious he nearly had a heart attack and ended up in the ICU. Even if he didn't like Zhao Yurong, she had held the title of Mrs. Lin for nearly 20 years. Now, with such a scandal, the Lin family's reputation was utterly shattered. I brought a fruit basket to visit him. Outside the ward, I could hear him roaring at his trusted aide. Investigate. Find out clearly. Who tipped off the police? Was it that girl Su Anwei? The aide stammered hesitantly. I pushed the door open, a perfectly appropriate look of concern on my face. "Dad, are you feeling any better?" Lin Zhenghong saw me, his face ashen, his anger barely restrained. "Anwei is here." He dismissed his trusted aides, leaving just the 2 of us in the hospital room. I was also surprised by Aunt Zhao's situation. I set down the fruit basket, my tone calm. But the evidence is solid. She embezzled public funds and illegally transferred assets, dealing a heavy blow to the company's reputation. The priority now is to quickly distance ourselves and stabilize the stock price. Lin Zhenghong stared at me, his gaze sharp, searching my face for any cracks. "Don't you have anything to say?" I met his eyes without flinching. "I do. I think we should immediately issue a statement clarifying the company's stance of cutting ties with Zhao Yurong's personal actions. And have you or Lin Cheng personally apologize and compensate the affected partners to minimize the damage as much as possible." Every word I said was well-founded, all from the perspective of the group's interests, leaving him with no fault to find. Lin Zhenghong was silent for a long time, then finally waved his hand wearily. "Do as you say. Let Cheng handle it." "All right, Dad. Get some rest." I turned and left, a cold smirk curling at the corner of my mouth as I closed the door. Severance and apology. This was only the beginning. Lin Cheng moved faster than I expected. He quickly issued a severance statement, personally visited the heads of several major partners, and used a mix of persuasion and pressure to swiftly stabilize the situation. Even the dissenting voices within the board were completely silenced in the face of his strong control. After a brief period of turbulence, The great ship of the Lin family sailed steadily into the channel that Lin Cheng could skillfully navigate. As for Lu Ming, he completely disappeared after Zhao Yurong's downfall. It was said that he couldn't even stay at the African branch, was deep in debt, and vanished with He Yuning. Whereabouts unknown. I didn't go looking for him. A stray dog isn't worth the effort, they always show up on their own. That day, I attended a tech summit on behalf of the Lin family. After signing a cooperation agreement, I walked out of the venue and was stopped at a corridor corner by a familiar yet disheveled figure, He Yuning. She was emaciated beyond recognition, wearing a cheap, wrinkled dress. Her face was unusually flushed, but her eyes burned with an abnormal fervor as she stared at me. Carrying a desperate, allure-nothing madness. Su Anwei, she said, her voice hoarse and resolute, like someone burning their bridges. Give me money, give me 5 million. Otherwise, I'll expose how you and Lin Cheng conspired to harm Aunt Zhao and drive away Amin. I have evidence. I stopped in my tracks, finding her desperate state almost laughable. Evidence. I raised an eyebrow. You mean the fake chat logs and transfer screenshots your scammer boyfriend gave you? He Yuning's pupils contracted sharply, and all color drained from her face. You. How do you know? I know more than that. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only the two of them could hear. I also know that Boss Wang, whom you served at Mise, has recently gotten himself into legal trouble and is looking for someone to take the fall. Tell me, if I were to send you over and let him know you're willing to shoulder everything for him, don't you think he'd be quite grateful to me? He Yuning's body began to tremble violently, her gaze shifting from madness to utter terror. No, you can't. I can. I straightened up, brushing off a speck of non-existent dust from my clothes. He Yuning, stay away from me. If you show up in front of me again, it won't just be a few words next time. Get ready to eat prison food. She collapsed to the ground as if all her strength had been drained. Utterly lost and dejected, I didn't spare her another glance as I turned and walked away. Creatures like her weren't even worth my attention. Back in the office, Lin Cheng was waiting for me. He sat in my chair, flipping through the latest progress report on the new energy project. Trouble? He asked without looking up. A fly. Swatted it away. I walked over and picked up another document. He closed the report and looked up at me, his gaze deep and unreadable. We have news about Lu Ming. I paused. Where? Macau. He owes a huge sum to the casino and has been detained. Lin Cheng's tone was flat, as if he were talking about something trivial. The casino contacted the Lin family, asking for money to secure his release. I let out a scoff. What does Dad think? What does Dad think? Lin Cheng stood up and walked over to me, looking down with a profound stare. The Lin family doesn't raise useless people. Nor do we clean up after gamblers. I understood. Lin Zhenghong had completely given up on Lu Ming. So I met his gaze. A cold smirk curled at the corner of Lin Cheng's lips. Madam, I'll trouble you to go to Macau in person and handle this matter cleanly. He emphasized the word handle with deliberate weight. I could see the undisguised coldness and decisiveness in his eyes. And I understood wanted me to deliver the final blow to Lu Ming, completely eradicating all future troubles for the Lin family. All right, I said without hesitation. I'll go. That afternoon, I flew to Macau with my lawyer and bodyguards. The casino staff led us into a dimly lit private room. Lu Ming was tied to a chair, his face bruised and swollen, his body reeking of filth. There was no trace left of the arrogant second young master of the Lin family. When he saw me, he froze for a moment, then struggled and screamed as if clutching at a lifeline. Su Anwei, it's you. Quick, give them the money. Take me back. I walked over and stopped in front of him, looking at him calmly. Back, I repeated, my tone drifting. Back where? Back to the Lin family. Lu Ming nodded frantically. Yes, back to the Lin family. I'm the second young master of the Lin family. They can't just abandon me. I laughed, leaning in close to him, speaking in a voice only the two of us could hear. Lu Ming, don't you get it yet? The Lin family has long abandoned you. Your mother is in prison. Your father treats you like you're dead. And your brother. I paused, watching his face drain of color, and said word by word, he sent me to see you off. Lu Ming's pupils contracted sharply as he shook his head frantically. No. Impossible. You're lying to me. Dad wouldn't abandon me. And my brother wouldn't. Gambling debts. 80 million. I straightened up, pulled a document from my bag, and threw it in front of him. Sign it. Give up all inheritance rights to the Lin family. And the debts are wiped clean. The casino will let you go. It was a share transfer agreement and a declaration of renunciation of inheritance. Lu Ming recoiled as if seeing a venomous snake. I won't sign. Don't even think about it. Not signing. I raised an eyebrow and gestured to the casino manager beside me. The manager waved his hand, and two burly men stepped forward to pin Lu Ming down, grabbing his finger and pressing it toward the ink pad. No, let me go. Su Anwei, you venomous woman. How dare you? Lu Ming struggled desperately, roaring and cursing. I watched coldly, unmoved. Finally, with a despairing howl, his thumb was forcibly pressed onto the end of the agreement. The contract took effect. I picked up the signed document, checked it for accuracy, and said to the casino manager, all right, he's yours now. The Lin family has nothing more to do with this man. The manager nodded in understanding and signaled for the limp, hollow-eyed Lu Ming to be dragged away. What awaited him was the bottomless abyss of the casino's debt collection. I turned and left that place reeking of decay, stepping out of the casino. The neon lights of Macau's night were blindingly bright. My phone buzzed. Lin Cheng had sent a single word. Done. I replied with one word. Done. From that moment on, the name Lu Ming was completely erased from the Lin family tree. After returning, Lin Shi had already completed her transformation. Lin Cheng took over power with an iron fist, and the board of directors was left with no dissenting voices. The new energy project I was leading progressed rapidly, with the first product about to hit the market, generating high expectations. Lin Cheng and I, a couple bound by revenge and mutual interests, had become the most formidable duo in the business world. He handled external affairs, maneuvering with skill, while I managed internal matters, controlling the core technology and financial lifelines. Our cooperation was seamless, like comrades who had fought side by side for years, rather than a newlywed couple. Rumors circulated outside, claiming that we appeared harmonious but were actually distant, each taking what we needed. We couldn't be bothered to explain. That day, Lin Cheng came home on time for a rare occasion, bringing a bottle of red wine. Let's celebrate, he said, taking off his suit jacket and loosening his tie. Obstacles cleared. Project on track. I raised an eyebrow and took the glass. He raised his glass and clinked it lightly with mine, a glint in his eyes. Toasting to Mrs. Lin's firm hold on the throne. I chuckled softly and downed the drink in one gulp. The wine was rich and smooth, with a fruity aroma. There's news about He Yuning, he suddenly said. I swirled the wine in my glass, not particularly concerned. Still alive. In some small country in Southeast Asia. She's sick. No money for treatment. And not long for this world. Lin Cheng's tone was flat. She sent word through someone, asking to see you one last time. She says she has some secrets about your parents to tell you. My parents. My hand, holding the cup, trembled slightly. My parents died in an accident during a scientific expedition many years ago, an incident the Su family prefers not to mention. How did He Yuning know about it? Do you think it's a trap? I asked. 99% sure. Lin Cheng said, looking at me. Are you going? I was silent for a moment, then drained the last of the wine in my cup. I'm going. Even if there's only a 1% chance. I need to find out. Besides, I want to see with my own eyes what this once glorious white lotus has withered into. Lin Cheng didn't stop me. I'll arrange for someone to accompany you. 3 days later, I arrived at a damp, rundown border town in Southeast Asia, in a small clinic reeking of mold and disinfectant. I saw He Yuning. She lay on a filthy hospital bed, emaciated, her face sallow, eyes sunken, and her once proud long hair now dry and straw-like. When she saw me, a faint glimmer of light ignited in her murky eyes. Struggling to sit up, she said, You came." Her voice sounded like a broken bellows. I stood by the bed, keeping my distance, my face expressionless. "Tell me, what is the secret about my parents?" He coughed violently, gasping for air, a sinister and malicious smile spreading across her face. "Su Anwei. Do you think you've won? Do you know? Your parents didn't die in an accident back then." My heart sank, my nails digging into my palms. "Speak clearly." It was Lin," she said, her voice faltering and weak. "It was Lin Zhenghong. He was afraid your father's research findings would threaten the Lin family, so..." Before she could finish, another bout of heart-wrenching coughing seized her. She suddenly spat out a mouthful of black blood, splattering it onto the filthy bedsheet. I stared at her intently. "Where's the evidence?" Yuning's gaze began to blur, a look of vengeful satisfaction on her face. "The evidence is long gone. Heh, Su Anwei, you're also a pitiful fool. Helping your enemy seize the kingdom." Her voice grew weaker and weaker, until finally her head lolled to the side, and she was gone. Her eyes remained open, frozen in endless hatred and a hint of mockery. I stood there, the nauseating stench of the clinic flooding my nostrils. Yuning's final words burrowed into my ears like venomous snakes. "Lin Zhenghong harmed my parents, killed for business gain." The shock churned my stomach. I forced myself to stay calm. I couldn't fully believe Yuning's words. She only wanted to drag me down and unsettle me before she died. But what if it was true? I took a deep breath, turned, and ordered the bodyguard, "Take care of it." Then I left that revolting place without looking back. On the return flight, I stared at the rolling sea of clouds outside the window, my mind in turmoil. If what Yuning said was true, then everything I had done for revenge since my rebirth would be nothing but a joke. Wouldn't that mean I was aiding the enemy, helping the Lin family, who might be my father's murderer, in dealing with the son of another enemy? What did Lin Cheng know? What role was he playing in all this? When the plane landed, Lin Cheng came to pick me up in person. He stood by the car in a black coat, his posture tall and imposing. Seeing me, he stepped forward and naturally took the bag from my hand. "You look pale." He frowned. "What did she say?" I looked up at his cold yet slightly concerned face, feeling a sense of unfamiliarity for the first time. I opened my mouth to ask but swallowed the words back down. Now was not the time. Acting rashly without evidence would only put me at a disadvantage. "Nothing." I lowered my eyes, masking the surging emotions. Seeing her like that just made me a bit nauseous. Lin Cheng stared at me for a few seconds without pressing further, then opened the car door. "Let's go home." Sitting in the car, I watched the street scenes rapidly receding outside the window, a chill settling deep in my heart. Back at the villa, I moved to the independent study on the top floor, using the excuse that the final phase of the project required strict confidentiality. And I ate and slept there. Lin Cheng said nothing, only instructing the servants to deliver meals on time. He seemed very busy, often returning late at night. An invisible wall seemed to have risen between us. I began to investigate in secret. My parents were top-tier materials scientists, and the national research project they led had once competed with the Lin family's core business at a critical moment. Not long after, they fell to their deaths during a field expedition, with the official conclusion citing equipment failure. Using the Su family's connections and the access Lin Cheng had granted me, I retrieved the accident report from that year and Lin Corporation's confidential files from the same period. The report was flawless, but a board meeting minutes marked as destroyed in the Lin Corporation's files caught my attention. It vaguely mentioned properly handling the potential threat of the Su family's project, dated exactly 1 week before my parents' accident. Properly handling. My heart sank even further. It wasn't enough to serve as evidence, but the implication was far too clear. I need something more tangible. I remembered that my parents had left behind an old-fashioned safe in the Su family's old house. I couldn't open it when I was a child, and later I forgot about it. Maybe there are clues inside. I made an excuse to go back to the Su family's old house. Sent everyone away. And tried countless combinations using the password I knew and my mother's birthday. Finally, with a click, the safe opened. Inside, aside from some old photos and jewelry, there was only a thick leather-bound notebook. It was my father's experiment log. I opened it with trembling hands. The earlier pages were densely filled with complex formulas and data. Until the last few pages. March 15th. Lin Zhenghong visited today. Taking a tough stance and demanding that we either stop the project or share the core data. Wishful thinking. This project concerns the nation's livelihood. How could it become a tool for capitalists to profit? March 18th. Another inspection of the equipment revealed signs of deliberate sabotage. Reporting it to the police was futile. Was it the Lin family? Are they truly so lawless? March 22nd. Someone is following us. Your mother is terrified. I have backed up the critical data and hidden it in. The diary ends abruptly there. Hidden where? The following pages have been torn out. I slumped to the floor. My body ice cold. Though there is no direct evidence. The contents of my father's diary corroborate what He Yuning said before she died. Lin Zhenghong. It really was him. For the sake of profit. He committed such a heinous act. A surge of overwhelming hatred instantly consumed me. 1,000 times more intense than when I first learned of Lu Ming and He Yuning's betrayal. I carefully stowed away the diary, erased all traces of my presence, and left the Su family's old residence. Back at the villa, I locked myself in the study, drowning in immense grief and hatred that nearly tore me apart. In this reincarnated life, I had been single-mindedly focused on seeking revenge against Lu Ming and He Yuning. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that the true enemy had always been high above. And I had been calling him Dad. In the evening, Lin Cheng knocked on the door. Come out and eat. I took a deep breath, suppressing all emotions, and opened the door. He stood at the threshold, his brow slightly furrowed. You've been off lately. The project is under a lot of pressure. I avoided his gaze and walked toward the dining room. The table was very quiet. He suddenly spoke up. Before you went to Macau, you asked me if I knew what He Yuning was going to say. My hand holding the chopsticks paused, and I looked up at him. His gaze was calm but carried a hint of scrutiny. What exactly did she say? My heart was racing. Was he testing me? Or did he really not know? I put down my chopsticks, looked him straight in the eye, and said word by word. She said my parents' death was no accident. Lin Cheng's pupils contracted almost imperceptibly, though he quickly returned to normal. That fleeting anomaly did not escape my notice. He knew. He must know something. You believe the ramblings of a dying woman. His tone was steady, but the knuckles of the hand holding the cup were turning slightly white. Is that so? I let out a cold smile. But I went through the Lin family's archives from back then and found the board meeting minutes about properly handling the potential threat of the Su project. The timing was exactly before my parents' accident. Lin Cheng's expression finally changed. He sat down, his cup producing a crisp clink. The study fell into a deathly silence. We stared at each other across the dining table, the air seeming to freeze into ice. After a long moment, he slowly rose, his tall figure exuding an intense sense of pressure. Su Anwei. His voice was low, carrying a warning. There are some things it's better for you not to know. I looked up to meet his gaze, unyielding. So it's true. Lin Zhenghong caused my parents' death. And you knew. Maybe even took part. The last few words came out with immense difficulty. Lin Cheng's gaze was as deep as the vast ocean, churning with emotions I couldn't read. He neither admitted nor denied it. The Lin family's ship is now in our hands. He walked around the table to stand before me, leaned down, and placed his hands on the back of my chair, trapping me between himself and the table, his presence pressing down. Let the past be the past. The present and the future are what matter most. He was extremely close. Close enough for me to clearly see the undercurrents in his eyes, to feel the threat in his words, and a faint hint of persuasion. Let it go. I repeated those 4 words, feeling nothing but a bitter irony. A blood feud. How could one simply let it go? I looked at his face. So close to Minea face that had once offered me a sliver of solace on my path of revenge. Now reduced to nothing but cold calculation and concealment. I shoved him away abruptly and stood up. Lin Cheng. Don't lump me in with you. I stared at him, enunciating each word with a resolute chill. I have no interest in your ship. From today onward, our partnership is over. After my complete fallout with Lin Cheng, I moved out of the Lin family villa and into a secluded apartment under the Su family's name. The new energy project was nearing its end. This was my most crucial bargaining chip. Claiming I needed absolute silence for the final sprint, I cut off all outside contact, including Lin Cheng. I knew he was looking for me calls, texts, even sending people to stake out the Su family's old residence and the company building, but I chose to avoid him. I needed time. I needed to clear my thoughts. More than anything, I needed to find evidence that could deliver a fatal blow. Just as I was at my wit's end, an unexpected person reached out to me. Qin Man, Lin Cheng's former personal assistant. A strikingly capable and beautiful woman who had voluntarily resigned shortly after Lin Cheng fell into a coma. I had vaguely sensed a subtle tension between her and Lin Cheng, but I never looked into it at the time. She arranged to meet me at a very secluded cafe. Miss Su. Or should I call you Mrs. Lin? Qin Man stirred her coffee, her smile warm yet carrying a faint, sharp edge. Get to the point. I wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. She set down her spoon and looked at me. I know you're investigating your parents' matter about Lin Zhenghong. And about Lin Cheng. My heart tightened, but I kept my composure. What do you know? I know more than you think. Qin Man leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. The first thing Lin Cheng did after waking up wasn't to consolidate power, but to secretly investigate his father, especially the accident 3 years ago that caused your parents' deaths. I gripped my coffee cup. He's investigating too. He's been investigating all along. Qin Man's tone was resolute. He suspects his father's hands aren't clean. And it might even involve something earlier, like the death of his biological mother. Lin Cheng's biological mother passed away when he was 10. And soon after, Zhao Yurong brought Lu Ming into the household. Could it be? A more terrifying guess surfaced in my mind. Why did he tell you all this? I stared at Qin Man. Qin Man lowered her eyelashes and let out a bitter smile. Because in a way, we're in the same boat. My father was once Lin Zhenghong's right-hand man and one of the insiders on your parents' project. He died of a sudden heart attack a month before your parents' accident. I gasped. Lin Cheng approached me, and we struck a deal. He needed me to help him gather evidence of Lin Zhenghong's past crimes, and I needed his help to seek justice for my father. Qin Man looked up, her gaze firm. In the 3 years he was in a coma, I never stopped investigating. I have some things in my hands. What is it? Some recorded calls and transfer records that can prove Lin Zhenghong ordered people to sabotage your parents' exploration equipment and fabricate the accident scene. While not enough to serve as direct evidence, it's sufficient to draw the police's serious attention and initiate a reinvestigation. Qin Man took a small USB drive from her bag and pushed it toward me. Also, Zhao Yurong managed to climb the ranks back then because she poisoned Lin Cheng's mother with a slow-acting toxin. The evidence is in there too. I picked up the cold USB drive, feeling its weight as if it were 1,000 pounds. So Lin Cheng approached me, protected me, and even tacitly allowed me to go after Zhao Yurong and Lu Ming, not just because of my abilities and the Su family's background, but because we shared a common enemy. Were his earlier concealments and warnings meant to avoid tipping off the enemy, or were they tests for me? Why didn't he tell me himself? I asked. He said you're too smart and too impulsive. He needed to confirm you were a reliable ally, not an avenger blinded by hatred who might ruin the whole plan. Qin Man said, looking at me. Now he's leaving the choice to you. Do you trust him? Join forces to bring down Lin Zhenghong and gather solid evidence to clear your parents' names, or continue fighting alone, betting everything. I fell silent. There was too much information. I needed time to process it. If what Qin Man said was true, then Lin Cheng's mind was terrifyingly deep. How much of his feelings for me were real, and how much were fake? I need to think, I said. putting away the USB drive. Of course. Qin Man stood up. But Miss Su. Time is running out. Lin Zhenghong seems to have sensed something and has been making moves more frequently lately. And she paused, hinting at something. I have more than one collaborator by Lin Cheng's side. Some people might not want you two to join forces. After saying that, she gave me a meaningful look and turned to leave. I sat there, staring out the window at the bustling traffic, my mind in turmoil. Lin Cheng, Qin Man, Lin Zhenghong everyone seemed to be wearing a mask. Every word potentially a trap. Was the content on the USB drive real? Or was it another bait to lure me in? I took out my phone and looked at Lin Cheng's unread message. Come back. Let's talk. My fingertip hovered over the screen for a long time without pressing down. Should I trust him? Take a gamble? Or would I rather kill the wrong person than let the right one go? Hatred burned in my chest. But reason told me that Qin Man's words were likely true. Lin Cheng had enough motive to go after Lin Zhenghong. In the end, I took a deep breath and made a decision. I replied to Lin Cheng's message. 8 o'clock tonight. At my apartment. At 8 o'clock in the evening. Lin Cheng showed up at my apartment door on time. He was wearing a simple black shirt. His posture upright, with a faint trace of weariness on his face. Yet his gaze remained sharp, as if it could pierce through a person's heart. Finally willing to see me, he said as he stepped in and closed the door behind him. His tone unreadable. I didn't turn on the main light. Only the floor lamp by the sofa. Its dim yellow glow cutting the living room into alternating patches of light and shadow. Qin Man came to see me, I said bluntly, placing the USB drive on the coffee table. She said you're investigating Lin Zhenghong, looking into my parents' deaths, and also probing your own mother's death. Lin Cheng's gaze fell on the USB drive, his expression unchanged, as if he had expected it. What else did she say? She said you and I share the same enemy. She said you have more than one collaborator by your side. I stared into his eyes, not letting any subtle emotion slip by. Lin Cheng walked to the opposite side of the sofa but didn't sit down. He looked down at me, the light carving deep contours on his face. Most of what she said is true. His frankness caught me off guard. Most. I seized on that word. I am indeed investigating Lin Zhenghong. And I do need allies. He paused, his gaze deep and fixed on me. But Qin Man's hiding part of the truth. What truth? About her own motives. Lin Cheng's tone turned cold. Her father did die because of this project. But he wasn't entirely innocent. He took money from Lin Zhenghong and participated in the early sabotage of your parents' project. Later, Lin Zhenghong had him killed to cover his tracks. I shuddered. Qin Man knows about this. She came to me not so much for cooperation as to use me to avenge her father. At the same time, she wants to get the evidence of her father's bribery from Lin Zhenghong and completely clear his name. Lin Cheng sneered. She didn't tell you, did she? Her father was the one Lin Zhenghong bribed to sabotage your parents' equipment. A chill ran down my spine. Qin Man, she had hidden such deep intentions. What about you? I suppressed the storm raging inside me, staring at him intently. How much have you kept from me? Who is this more than one collaborator you mentioned? Lin Cheng was silent for a moment, as if weighing his options. Just then, his phone rang at the most inopportune time. He glanced at the caller ID, frowned slightly, and hung up directly. But then my phone rang to an unfamiliar number. A sense of foreboding seized me. I pressed the answer button, and a deliberately lowered, tearful young male voice came through. Is this Miss Su Anwei? Please. Save my mother. I'm Lin Cheng's son. My mother's name is Bai Wei. Lin Zhenghong is going to silence us. Lin Cheng's son. I jerked my head up to look at Lin Cheng, who had clearly heard the call as well. His face turned extremely grim, and in his eyes, I caught a glimpse of something I had never seen before: panic. Where are you? I steadied my voice and asked. The abandoned chemical plant in the western suburbs. They're about to find us. Please. The phone suddenly went dead, leaving only a dial tone. The living room was dead silent. I put down my phone, looked at Lin Cheng, and asked word by word, "Lin Cheng, you'd better explain this to me. Who is Bai Wei, and what is this son all about?" Lin Cheng closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, there was a cold, resolute determination in his gaze. "Bai Wei was my girlfriend in college," he said in a low voice, with a barely noticeable hoarseness. "After we broke up, she found out she was pregnant and gave birth to the child. She has been avoiding the Lin family and raising the child on her own. Lin Zhenghong doesn't know they exist. Didn't know before." I pressed on. Lin Cheng's expression darkened. "But recently, he might have found out. He's afraid that the existence of this illegitimate child will affect my usefulness and ruin the marriage alliance with the Su family. So he wants to kill to silence them." I looked at the man before me and suddenly felt a profound sense of irony. So that was it. No wonder he was hot and cold with me. No wonder he tacitly approved of all my actions. No wonder Qin Man said he had more than one collaborator by his side. He protected me, of course. There was the shared goal of dealing with Lin Zhenghong. But more than that, he probably wanted to use the Su family's influence and my identity as Mrs. Lin to restrain Lin Zhenghong, buying time and space for the mother and son he truly cared about. And I, Su Anwei, the so-called scientific genius and revenge queen, had been nothing more than a more convenient pawn on his chessboard from start to finish. Or even a shield. The overwhelming sense of humiliation and betrayal nearly drowned me. Even more suffocating than when I learned the truth about my parents' deaths. I looked at him and suddenly let out a faint laugh, tinged with desolation and self-mockery. "Lin Cheng, you've really played your cards well." I stood up, walked over to him, and looked up at his cold, stern face. "Using me to draw Lin Zhenghong's fire. Shielding you and your white moonlight and illegitimate son. Once Lin Zhenghong is taken down, you'll kick me aside and reunite with your old flame." I raised my hand and jabbed his chest hard, my fingertips icy cold. "What do you take me for?" Lin Cheng grabbed my wrist with considerable force, his expression complicated. "Su Anwei, it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I yanked my hand away and stepped back, my gaze turning utterly cold, as if tempered with ice. "Lin Cheng, let me make this clear. Our partnership ends here. I'll deal with Lin Zhenghong myself. As for you," I looked at him, each word like frost. "You and your illegitimate son had better pray you never fall into my hands." With that, I turned around, grabbed the car keys and the USB drive, and rushed out of the apartment without looking back. The night wind cut sharply against my face. I got into the car, started the engine, and floored the accelerator. The vehicle shooting into the darkness like an arrow from a bow. Destination: the abandoned chemical plant on the western outskirts. I wasn't going to rescue his white moonlight and illegitimate son. I wanted to see for myself what kind of person was worth Lin Cheng's meticulous protection. More importantly, I was going to get the evidence of Lin Zhenghong's murderous cover-up. Abandoned chemical plant on the western outskirts. Rust-covered steel frames stood like the bones of a giant beast under the pale moonlight, and the night wind howled eerily through broken window holes. I parked the car in the distant shadows and slipped in silently. The air was thick with the pungent smell of rust and chemical reagents. From deep within the factory came muffled sobbing and harsh shouts. "You bitch! Thought you could hide. Hand over the little bastard. Please. Spare the child. He has nothing to do with the Lin family." The woman's trembling plea. I crept toward the sound, hiding behind a pile of discarded machinery, and took in the scene. A plainly dressed woman, pale-faced but still bearing traces of former beauty, tightly held a boy of 7 or 8. The boy's face was white with fear as he clung to his mother's clothes. Opposite them stood 3 men in black suits, fierce expressions on their faces, holding clubs. "Lin Zhenghong's men. Don't worry, the bloodline of Lin Cheng is the original sin." The lead man sneered. "The boss said to clean it up. Leave no one behind." He raised his club to strike the woman. "Now's the time." I suddenly rushed out from the shadows, pressed the recording button on my phone, and shouted, "Stop! I've called the police." The men were startled by my sudden appearance, freezing in their tracks, seizing the moment of their hesitation. I grabbed the woman named Bai Wei and the child. Run. Bai Wei reacted quickly, scooping up the child and rushing out with me. Damn it. There's a woman too. Chase them. Angry shouts and the sound of running footsteps came from behind. The chemical plant's terrain was complex, and we ran desperately, using abandoned equipment and shadows for cover. Bullets whizzed past my ear, striking an iron frame and sparking. I pulled my way into the gap behind a large reaction tank, temporarily cutting off the pursuer's line of sight. Bai Wei gasped for breath, the child in her arms whimpering softly. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with fear and a hint of gratitude. You are Miss Su. Shut up. I cut her off coldly, uninterested in hearing her mention Lin Cheng's name. I quickly checked my phone to confirm that the conversation and threats from earlier had been clearly recorded. This was solid evidence of Lin Zhenghong hiring a killer. Suddenly, sharp screeching breaks came from outside, followed by more chaotic sounds of fighting and screams. Lin Cheng had arrived. Fast enough. I signaled Bai Wei and the child to hide and quietly peered out. I saw Lin Cheng, along with a few others, already locked in combat with the three assassins. His moves were ruthless and lethal. Nothing like a patient who had just woken up. It seemed those 3 years in a coma hadn't been wasted. Soon, the three assassins were subdued and tied up on the ground. Lin Cheng strode quickly toward our hiding spot, his face clearly anxious. Bai Wei. Xiao Hao. He first checked on the mother and son to ensure they were safe, then turned to me, his expression complicated. And you? I stepped out from behind the reaction tank, holding my phone as I stared at him expressionlessly. Lin Cheng. No need to keep up the act anymore. Lin Zhenghong hired someone to commit murder, and the evidence is solid. You protect your woman and child. I take my revengery even. His brows furrowed tightly. It's not what you think. Bai Wei and I have long since. I don't care. I cut him off sharply, backed up the recording to the cloud, and slipped my phone back into my pocket. Take your people and disappear right now. I turned to leave this nauseating place. Su Anwei. Lin Cheng called after me, his voice laced with suppressed anger. Do you really have to do this? I stopped in my tracks but didn't look back. Lin Cheng. From the moment you decided to use me, we could only ever be enemies. With that, I strode away without looking back. Back at the apartment, I immediately contacted my most trusted lawyer and the core members of the Su family, submitting the recorded evidence along with Lin Zhenghong's other crimes on the USB drive. I filed charges against Lin Zhenghong for intentional homicide, commercial fraud, and illegal asset transfer, with multiple offenses combined. The lawyer looked at the thick dossier with a serious expression. Miss Su, this evidence is enough to keep him locked up for a long time, but it might affect the Lin group, and even Mr. Lin Cheng. I let out a cold laugh. The Lin family's fate is none of my concern. As for Lin Cheng, I paused, the image of him shielding Bai Wei and her child flashing through my mind. A sharp pain stabbing my chest. Let the law take its course. The next day, Lin Zhenghong was taken away by the police directly from the top-floor office of the Lin Group. The news exploded like a bombshell, instantly igniting the entire city. Lin Group chairman Lin Zhenghong arrested, facing multiple felonies. A major upheaval in a wealthy family. The Lin Empire on the brink of collapse. Former business tycoon reduced to murder suspect. Public opinion was in an uproar, and Lin Group's stock hit the daily limit at the opening bell. Chaos reigned. I sat in my office watching the chaotic footage of Lin Zhenghong being shoved into a police car on the news, feeling no satisfaction in my heart, only a cold, hollow emptiness. I had avenged my parents, so why did my heart still feel empty? My phone rang. It was Lin Cheng. I hung up directly and blocked him. A few minutes later, the office door was pushed open heavily. Lin Cheng stood at the entrance, radiating hostility, his eyes bloodshot. Su Anwei, are you satisfied now? His voice was low, carrying a bone-chilling coldness. I lifted my gaze and calmly looked at him. Mr. Lin, this is the Su family's territory. Please leave. He took a step closer, his presence suffocating, taking down Lin Zhenghong. Bringing down the Lin family. Is this the outcome you wanted? This is what your Lin family deserves. I stood up to face him. Including you. Lin Cheng. Using me. Deceiving me. Haven't settled that score with you yet. He suddenly grabbed my wrist with a force that felt like it could crush my bones. I never meant to hurt you. Let go. I struggled but couldn't break free. Lin Zhenghong is finished. The Lin family is done. What's next? He pressed closer. His breath hitting my face. Are you going to take down me and Xiaohao too? Xiaohao. The name of that illegitimate child. I looked at his undisguised protective instinct. And the last shred of pathetic sentiment within me died out completely. That depends on whether you get in my way. I said coldly. Lin Cheng stared at me intently. His gaze as if he wanted to devour me alive. After a long moment, he suddenly laughed. His smile cold and cruel. Fine. Very well. Su Anwei. If that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. He abruptly released me, turned around, and strode away. I watched his figure disappear through the door, then slowly sank back into my chair. My entire body icy cold. I knew there was no room left between Lin Cheng and me from now on. It would be a fight to the death. What I didn't know was that shortly after Lin Cheng left, a piece of negative news about me quietly climbed to the top of the trending searches. Breaking. The mastermind behind the collapse of the Lin group is actually the heiress of the Su family, framing her husband's family to seize power. The post was accompanied by a blurry photo of Lin Cheng and me confronting each other outside the chemical plant, along with some carefully cropped text presented as so-called evidence. Lin Cheng's counterattack came swiftly and ruthlessly. The smear campaign against me, fueled by capital, quickly gained traction. Keyboard warriors and gossipers who didn't know the truth began to attack me verbally, and some even started doxing my address and harassing my family. The stock price of the Su group also began to drop. And several board elders who had long been dissatisfied with my rapid rise to power started to stir. I watched this familiar tactic of manipulating public opinion and sneered inwardly. Sure enough, it was a product of the Lin family, carrying the same despicable traits as Lin Zhenghong and Lu Ming. But I was no longer the Su Anwei from my past life, someone who could be easily manipulated. I immediately convened an emergency meeting with the Su group's PR and legal departments. First, issue the strictest lawyers' letters in the name of the Su group and myself, suing all rumor-mongering marketing accounts and cyberbullies. The tech department has already compiled a list. No one will be missed. Second, contact all partner media and release the official details of Lin Zhenghong's arrest, along with evidence of his years of tax evasion and even his involvement in organized crime, to muddy the waters. Third, I turned to the head of the tech department. Release the big package I had you prepare. Using anonymous IPs and timed batches. The tech department head understood immediately. After the meeting, I sat alone in my office, staring at the gray sky outside. My phone vibrated on the desk as I received several abusive text messages from unknown numbers. I deleted and blocked them without expression. Lin Cheng, you want to crush me with public opinion. Let's see who has more cards to play. That afternoon, public opinion began to shift subtly. First, several authoritative state media outlets republished the police report, confirming that Lin Zhenghong was involved in multiple serious crimes. Then, long-standing issues within the Lin group such as chaotic management, nepotism, and illicit benefit transfers began circulating online, including Lu Ming's absurd actions during his tenure and details of how Zhao Yurong used her status as Mrs. Lin to amass wealth. The public's attention started to pivot. The Lin family was this rotten all along. It was corrupt from the roots. Maybe Su Anwei really was forced to fight back. Lin Cheng is smearing others now to divert attention, isn't he? But this was just the appetizer. Late at night, as most netizens were preparing for bed, a certain encrypted forum suddenly dropped several bombshells that spread across major social platforms at an astonishing speed. The headline read: Lin Cheng's illegitimate son confirmed. Mother by Wei's identity exposed. Not some pure white moonlight, but a scheming woman who climbed the ladder by underhanded means. The accompanying images showed Bai Wei frequently visiting nightclubs in her early years, intimate photos with various men, and chat records of her privately contacting paparazzi to expose the child's identity in exchange for a hefty hush money payment. The second headline: Lin Cheng and stepmother Zhao Yurong in cahoots. The truth behind the 3-year coma and awakening. Deep dive into the young master's power grab. It meticulously outlined Lin Cheng's timeline after waking up, hinting at a pre-existing collusion with Zhao Yurong, possibly even faking the coma to eliminate Lin Zhenghong and Lu Ming in one fell swoop to seize the Lin family fortune. Though lacking direct evidence, the analysis was compelling and highly inflammatory. The third headline: The perfect husband's true face. Lin Cheng's overseas secret accounts exposed. Massive fund flows remain a mystery. It posted several pieces of information about Lin Cheng's overseas accounts and records of huge financial transactions, with timestamps coinciding with his awakening, sparking wild speculation. Once these 3 bombshells dropped, the entire internet exploded. Oh my god, that's way too much information. Lin Cheng is no good either. Illegitimate child, power grab, asset transfer. This whole family is rotten from top to bottom. So Su Anwei is the biggest victim, used by both father and son, then kicked aside. No wonder she fought back. Who wouldn't go crazy in her shoes? The tide of public opinion reversed instantly. Those who had cursed me before now offered me sympathy and support with the same fervor. The mud Lin Cheng tried to sling at me splashed back on him tenfold, 100-fold. I stared at the scrolling comments on my computer screen, expressionless, and closed the laptop. Can't take it, Lin Cheng. This is just the beginning. The next day, I attended the Su Group press conference in full regalia, facing a forest of cameras and flashing lights. Dressed in a sharp black suit with flawless makeup, I exuded an overwhelming presence. First, regarding the recent false statements about me and the Su Group circulating online. The Su Group's legal department has fully initiated legal proceedings and will pursue the matter to the end without leniency. My voice was clear and resolute. Second, I hereby officially announce that the Su Group will terminate all cooperative relations with the Lin Group. We will also initiate accountability procedures for the Lin Group's overdue payments and breach of contract. The reporters below erupted in commotion. Miss Su, your marital relationship with Mr. Lin Cheng. I cut off the question directly, raising my left hand to reveal an empty ring finger. My marriage to Mr. Lin Cheng began with a meticulously planned deception. Now that the truth has come to light, this farce should come to an end. I have already instructed my lawyer to file for divorce in court. I swept my gaze across the room, my eyes as cold as frost. As for Mr. Lin and his mistress and illegitimate child, I wish them a lifetime of misery together. With that, I turned and decisively left the stage, ignoring the frenzy of the media behind me. The press conference had a significant impact. The Su Group's stock price stopped falling and began to recover, and my decisiveness and toughness won market approval. Meanwhile, the Lin family was plunged into an irreversible abyss. Their stock price hit consecutive daily limits. Partners canceled contracts one after another. Banks demanded repayment, and internal employees were thrown into panic, sparking a wave of resignations. Lin Cheng was overwhelmed, desperately trying to turn things around, but faced with an overwhelming tide of decline and endless scandals, he was powerless to reverse the situation. At that moment, I received an anonymous package. Inside were a stack of photos and a paternity test report. The photos showed Lu Ming and He Yuning too had secretly slipped back into the country, hiding in a dirty and chaotic urban village. They were gaunt and haggard, fighting and tearing at each other over money, almost deranged. The paternity test report revealed that the child He Yuning had miscarried back then was not biologically related to Lu Ming. Staring at the report, I suddenly recalled how He Yuning had cried to Lu Ming after the miscarriage in my past life. So that was it. A clever sleight of hand. She herself didn't know who the child's father was. Or perhaps she knew it wasn't Lu Ming's but still tried to pin it on him, only to bungle it and cement my supposed role in driving her to her death. I let out a cold laugh and anonymously sent this gift to Zhao Yurong, who was still in prison, hoping her son would come to save her. It was said that after reading it, She screamed wildly all night in her cell and went completely insane. As for Lu Ming and He Yuning, I merely accidentally revealed their hiding place to a few loan sharks chasing debts. Later, I heard that Lu Ming had his legs broken by the debt collectors and was thrown out of the urban village along with He Yuning, reduced to begging on the streets, fighting over a bowl of stale food until they bled. The two resented and tormented each other, struggling in the mire, unable to live or die. This gave me more satisfaction than killing them outright. After dealing with this trash, I devoted all my energy to the final sprint of the new energy project. This was entirely Su Anwei's achievement. With no connection to the Lin family anymore, the project was a huge success. And on the day it launched, Su Corporation's stock soared. I stood under the spotlight, receiving the admiration and praise of the crowd. I knew I had finally found my footing, no longer someone's daughter, someone's fiancée, or someone's wife. I was just Su Anwei. After the press conference, I ran into Lin Cheng in the backstage lounge, who had come uninvited. He had lost a lot of weight, his suit hanging loosely on his frame, with deep exhaustion and dejection in his eyes. Long gone was the noble aloofness of the Lin family's eldest son. Anwei, his voice was hoarse with a hint of pleading. "Let's talk, Mr. Lin." "There's nothing to talk about." I sat leisurely in front of the vanity mirror, removing my earrings, not even sparing him a glance. "The Lin family is finished. I admit it." He walked up behind me, looking at my indifferent face in the mirror. "Using you, keeping things from you, that was my fault. But I've had no feelings for Bai Wei for a long time. And I only found out about Xiao Hao's existence later. I did all that just to protect the child after all. He's innocent. Innocent." I let out a cold laugh, finally meeting his gaze through the mirror. "Lin Cheng, save your tricks. The Lin family is rotten to the core. Lin Zhenghong is a murderer. Zhao Yurong is a poisoner. And Lu Ming is foolish and vicious." And I stood up and turned to face him, my eyes like icy blades. "You are selfish, cold-hearted, and stop at nothing to achieve your goals, even using marriage as a pawn. What essential difference is there between you and your beast of a father? You're telling me all this now only because you've lost everything and are seeking some final comfort, or a chance to turn things around. Let me tell you, Lin Cheng, you don't deserve it." His face turned pale and his lips trembled, as if my merciless words had pierced him through and through. Really, he tried to defend himself. "Really what?" I interrupted him, my eyes full of disgust. "Really have feelings for me? Don't say such disgusting things. Your sincerity isn't even worth your father's money or your brother's brains." I picked up my handbag, ready to leave. "Su Anwei," he roared behind me, with a final note of unwillingness and despair. "Do you have to be so heartless?" I stopped in my tracks and slowly turned to look at his bloodshot eyes, finding it utterly absurd. "Heartless." I repeated the word as if I had heard the funniest joke in the world. "Lin Cheng, you want to talk about feelings with me? Do you deserve it?" He stepped forward, trying to grab my arm, his tone carrying an almost obsessive urgency. "Yes, I used you. I hid things from you. But in the end, we still got married. After leaving me, do you think any other man would dare to have you? Su Anwei, your reputation has long spread ruthless, cold-blooded. Which wealthy family would dare to marry a woman like you?" I looked at the man before me, seeing the arrogance and prejudice of feudal patriarchy ingrained in his bones, as if I were staring at a disgusting pile of mud. What era are we in now? And he still thinks divorce is a stain on a woman, believing I need to cling to a man, that I need to be wanted. My last shred of patience was gone. I suddenly raised my hand. Slap. A sharp slap landed on his face, cutting off his foolish words. Lin Cheng's head jerked to the side, and a clear red handprint instantly appeared on his cheek. He covered his face, staring at me in disbelief, as if I had committed some heinous act. "Lin Cheng." I shook my slightly numb wrist, my voice cold enough to freeze. "Put away your nauseating feudal mindset. I, Su Anwei, have never been anyone's appendage." I stepped closer, locking eyes with his shocked gaze, each word striking his ears. Do you think I agreed to marry you because I love you? Or because the Su family needs the Lin family? Let me tell you, neither. If it weren't for using the Lin family's influence to bring down Lin Zhenghong faster and uncover the truth about my parents, do you think you, with this rotten Tothakor Lin family, would even deserve to have your name associated with mine? Marriage. I let out a scornful laugh, my eyes full of contempt and disgust. That was always my burden. My tool, never something I wanted. Now that the tool has served its purpose, it's a burden. And it's time to throw it away. Lin Cheng stood frozen, his face cycling from red to white to green, as if seeing me for the first time. His eyes were filled with immense shock and a dazed sense of crumbling faith, the ridiculous beliefs he clung to for his last shred of dignity. About marriage and a woman's worth. Shattered by my words. His lips trembled, but he couldn't utter a single word. I looked at his pathetic state, feeling nothing but disgust. Lin Cheng, don't ever show up in front of me again. The sight of you makes me sick. Later, I heard that Lin Cheng wasn't doing well. The Lin family went bankrupt, leaving him with astronomical debts. The once lofty young master of the Lin family had to sell everything he could, including the old house his mother left him, what he once treasured most, barely filling part of the gap. He wanted to make a comeback, reaching out to friends he once called brothers. But when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. When the wall collapses, everyone pushes. No one was willing to get involved in his mess, let alone risk offending me and the thriving Su family. He had no choice but to start from the bottom, working at small companies or taking on odd projects. But he was used to giving orders, and the arrogance and misplaced pride ingrained in him caused him to hit walls everywhere. On top of that, his reputation was ruined. Marriage fraud, using women, ruthless tactics, and an illegitimate child hidden from sight. Anyone with a bit of background avoided him like the plague. The wealthy young ladies who once flocked to him now saw him as a snake or scorpion. At a small industry gathering, someone saw him trying to chat up a Miss Liu from a building materials business. That Miss Liu had once been one of Lin Cheng's fervent admirers. But this time, she just gave him a disdainful glance, stepped back 2 paces quickly as if afraid of getting dirty, and linked arms with her male companion. In a voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, she said, "Oh, isn't this Master Lin? Why aren't you off looking for your true love and child? Coming to a place like this? How ridiculous. You were suffocated by your stepmother and her illegitimate child as a kid, and now you're still up to the same trick. Serves you right." Suppressed laughter rippled through the crowd. Lin Cheng's face turned bright red, his fists clenched. But he couldn't utter a single word in rebuttal. Finally, under the onlookers' gazes, some sympathetic, some contemptuous, fled in disgrace. This kind of thing happened more than once. Later, I heard he moved to an urban village, crammed into those shabby apartment buildings he once wouldn't even deign to look at, struggling every day just to get by. His hair turned gray early, making him look over a decade older than his actual age. That illegitimate child, Xiao Hao, reportedly got sick from the poor living conditions, and without money for proper treatment, it left lasting damage. Bai Wei couldn't stand the hard life. One night, she took Lin Cheng's last bit of savings and ran off with another man, never to return. That left Lin Cheng alone, with a sickly, resentful son, struggling in the mire. The man who once calculated everything, believing he could control the entire situation, was ultimately betrayed by everyone, left with nothing, stripped of even the most basic dignity, and became the very person he once despised. Later, news about him grew scarce. Perhaps he was silently struggling to survive in some corner. Occasionally, when I come across reports about the Su family or myself in financial news, I pause for a moment, recalling that such a person once existed. But that's all. He has long been left far behind me, reduced to a trivial, even sordid footnote in my glorious life. Even mentioning him feels like a waste of breath.